Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to the first crypto market update of 2025. My name is Brendan from the Crypto 101 team, and things are already off to quite the volatile start this year. So in today's market update, we're going to be covering not only what's happening with prices on the charts, but we're going to be going through a lot of the news and catalysts as well to help you understand not only what has happened, but what could happen to the price and overall crypto industry as we move into this new year. So welcome back, everyone. It's good to have you. We certainly hope that everyone had a great holiday season and New Year's. But now that we're back here again, we got a lot to cover, so we're going to be running through all of that in today's episode. All we ask is that if you like the content that we make, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because we got a lot more videos coming your way. Now, first things first, let's talk about this $100,000 price point on Bitcoin because this is the level that everyone is talking about. Can we hold above it? Are we going to continue to trade below it? What is happening here? Well, as this article kind of sheds some light on the topic, it says, hey, there's a huge bet on 2025 that Bitcoin is going to surge above and send Bitcoin's price well above $100,000, all stemming from this idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And this is something that the whole team has talked about. This is something that we've specifically talked about on the channel quite a few times. And I agree that, if we really do get this Bitcoin strategic reserve in the way that it is written at the moment, I think $100,000 is going to look really cheap for the overall price of Bitcoin by the end of not only this year, but maybe even the next couple of years. And this could be something that potentially even breaks that 4-year market cycle. And I know that's going to be controversial, but if we really do get a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the States, it has that domino effect. In fact, there's already other countries and companies, as we're going to look at in just a second, that are trying to front run the United States in this idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And if I think that this really does go through inside the United States, then we just start seeing more countries try to front run the US or even try to do this as well in the US's footsteps. So when it comes to this idea of 100K, I think that number one, Bitcoin can go well above 100K even without the strategic Bitcoin reserve in the US. However, if we get it, I think that several $100,000 by the end of this year is something that is fully on the books as there will be quite a bit of adoption. Now, if we go over and we look at stuff like this, this is just one of the countries that has been interested in this idea. So breaking news, the Czech National Bank is considering buying Bitcoin as a reserve asset as well. And I've seen this all over my feed as of this morning because other countries are starting to kind of get this idea of, hey, if this is going to happen, the best time to do this is before the US starts doing it, because if they're going to accumulate 1 million Bitcoin, which is like a really big portion of the circulating supply, not the max supply, but the circulating supply, then that would be a really big deal, and that would probably make prices go skyrocketing. So other countries like, the Czech Republic and some of these others are interested in also considering Bitcoin as a reserve asset, as, again, there's more that are doing this as well. And so when we go in and we look at the actual Bitcoin price chart before we go back to the news here, I just want to walk through what's been happening because we've seen a lot of volatility. We kind of saw Bitcoin go on this run up to $108,000. Then it retraced about 16% to the downside from 108K all the way down to around 91,000. Now, 91K for Bitcoin has been a big support zone. I mean, ever since the breakout over 100K, this has been the primary support level for Bitcoin for the end of November, all of December, and now even leading into January. And so we've seen that, upon breaking up to 100K right here, we came back and we tested this 90K area once and then twice and then a third, fourth, and fifth time. And this has been the big support level for Bitcoin. Now, in recent days, we saw Bitcoin kind of bounce off this 90K level, this 91K support zone, and go back above the 20 and 50-day moving averages, go back above its previous highs here of 100K, and shoot all the way up to around $102,000 to $103,000. We've started to see a little bit of a retracement today. I think part of this is due to uncertainty in the traditional risk markets, things like NASDAQ, S&P 500, Dow Jones, Russell, stuff like that, which is seeing a little bit of FUD, a little bit of scared activity that is scaring those risk investors away for the short term. I think that's part of the catalyst as to why we're seeing this kind of downside volatility on Bitcoin. But now as it comes back down over here, we need to understand that, again, there's still a lot of support for Bitcoin. There's still a lot of bulls. And just about everything in Bitcoin's trading history, the more we zoom out, just about all of Bitcoin's trading history has just nonstop support levels as it falls. So I'm really not too concerned about the price of Bitcoin seeing a rather large day of around 5% to the downside, because it's coming right back into support territory in the 90s, and there's plenty of more below that. Now, as we start to look at like the long term, again, I've kind of mentioned this idea that I'm optimistic on it. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to look at this chart over here and say, hey, the trend is our friend, and the trend is very clearly been up for years now. And I don't think that this is going to stop, at least not in the first half of 2025. And I think that we got more room to go to the upside. And when you look at like what Wall Street is doing, our buddy Tom Dunleavy, who is just a really solid analyst for all the markets, but especially in crypto. But he was saying, hey, if we even look at the traditional risk markets, like things for the S&P 500, really quite literally no one on Wall Street is expecting a decline this year. Everyone is looking at the markets and saying, hey, the risk markets look like they should do good this year. And so here's all of these different examples of Wall Street analysts and Wall Street companies giving their predictions. And so on here, you have everyone from Oppenheimer to Wells Fargo, Deutsche Bank, you have Bank of America, you have, let's continue to go down here. You have Fundstrat, you have Ned Davis Research, you have JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, Cantor Fitzgerald, and the list goes on. And you'll notice that everyone is expecting a positive gain for 2025. And it is weird to say, hey, even after the past maybe 2 years that we've seen, no one is expecting red. No one on Wall Street is expecting red. And that is because if we go back to that same idea, the trend is our friend. And just because it's a new year, just because the number has changed from a 4 to a 5, the trend is still there. It's not like we magically reset everything overnight and everything that we did in the last year is all just down the trash chute. It doesn't work like that. It's still the same market conditions. Yes, the number on the year changed, but the overall market structure is still there. So none of the big names are really bearish on 2025. And again, I think that goes back to the idea that the trend is our friend here. Also, this was just in, this is pretty breaking news, but the publicly traded Kuehler CEO is saying that, hey, Bitcoin could double in 2025, and we could see a $200,000 Bitcoin. And I agree. We talked about this at the beginning of the video, but wouldn't it be crazy to see a $200,000 Bitcoin by the end of this year? And people are going to look at this, and it's not a guarantee that it would happen, but that's not something that is too far from reality. Is Bitcoin doing a 100% move to the upside from where it's currently priced at? We've seen it do far crazier things in the past. We might even see it do far crazier things at some point in the future. But I think a 100% move for Bitcoin here is still very much in the books, especially if some of these catalysts start to actually hit. And finally, what we've seen over here is that MicroStrategy, and among others, they're not the only ones, but MicroStrategy continues to buy more and more and more Bitcoin. And this is just, again, propping prices further because, again, they're not alone in doing this. And I think that as time goes on, there will be more companies that start to take this MicroStrategy-like approach. Even if they don't invest all of their money in Bitcoin, I think that it will become the norm where we start seeing companies, especially US-based companies, hedge against risk and inflation and some of these other things by bringing on 1, 2, 3, maybe 5% of their cash reserves or of their strategic reserves and converting that to Bitcoin. So maybe not as aggressive as MicroStrategies, but I do think it will be fairly common in the next couple of years to see companies have at least a few percent of their holdings in Bitcoin just to mitigate risk and inflation. And that will especially become more popular, I would imagine, if Bitcoin becomes this reserve asset in the US, because that would essentially push a lot more companies to do something like this in the first place. So as we come back in here, we get back into the thick of things. Just remember that because the year has slipped over doesn't mean that everything that we've done before this is invalidated. Look at the run that we had in 2023. People could have said, oh, this is over. And then, of course, right after, around 2020, or January, February of 2024, the run resumed. I think that's the right way to put it. And we continued to hit new all-time highs after that. And I think that as we're looking at this over here, we could very well see the same sort of price movement where we continue to see this run to the upside. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do get maybe a double in the price of Bitcoin this year. So overall, again, we're going to have our ups and downs. We're going to have volatility. The crypto markets are notorious for volatility. But I think that, my major viewpoint here is that I'm looking at buying the dips. I'm looking at a positive year for the crypto markets, and some of these potential catalysts that are on the horizon could really, really push us above and beyond what I think a lot of us are expecting. So all things that we are excited about over here. We're going to continue to cover all of the news, all the technicals, all the fundamentals that you need to know when it comes to the crypto markets. So if you aren't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see all of you in the next video. Also, if you are tuning in here for the first time and you want to get plugged into a really great crypto community, we have all sorts of links that you can check out in the description down below. But you can also check us out at Crypt Nation. Now, at Crypt Nation, this is a really great crypto community. I'm maybe a little bit biased here because I'm one of the analysts over there, but we bring in thousands of people that are all passionate about crypto. And inside this community, people can talk and interact and share their ideas and what interests them and charts that they're looking at and anything along those lines. So if you do want to get more plugged into a crypto community, we believe that that's going to be the #1 place to do it. And we hope that all of you can join us there. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see all of you at the same time, same place next week.